Soundstripe.
So thank you very much for tuning in. This is Bipolar Dad, Jim Stordahl, reporting from Central Iowa, the most flown over state in the Union. And I am recently retired for the fourth time. That's another story that I'll be dealing with, but I've had a lot of jobs in my life, and it's all falling into a pattern. The more you go to therapy and the more you talk to doctors, the more you realize that, hey, there's a problem in your thought process. And, of course, I knew very little about my thought process. I was just kind of winging it. But now that I'm staring at 80 years of age, I'm starting to reread my books. I have 8 books self-published on Amazon. If you Google Amazon, you punch in my name, James Stordahl, and you'll see the 8 titles that I have authored. And you can get them. You can get them for less than $10. Which I think is a pretty good deal in today's market. And it might just be a help to any of you that are suffering with depression or anxiety or living with bipolar disorder. I've been bipolar 2 all my life. And our youngest daughter is bipolar 1. So we've had lots of trips, therapy, training, discussions, and journaling is what was the magic for Betsy, our daughter. And I picked up on that and started writing down my thoughts. And, of course, then thanks to Amazon developing a great platform for writing. It's called Create Space, and it's been very helpful and therapeutic. And I encourage anybody who's got a book in their head that they say, "Yeah, we got to write a book. We've got enough to write a book." Create Space will help you out. I am continuing with reading from book number 8, which is Send My Mail to the End of the Trail. A variety of short stories and memories from an Iowa grandfather. I continue as I stumble into the Postal Service era. Back in 2008, when I reluctantly retired early from the Postal Service with clinical depression caused by the Postal Service, I really had no thoughts about retirement. I just knew I had to get out. I was so depressed and overburdened with anxiety and guilt that I was thinking day to day, nothing long term. The cost-cutting decisions coming out of Washington, D.C. were really destroying the morale of the workers. Now, this goes back prior to the year 2000, when the wizards in Washington decided they'd look at some pie charts or some bar graphs, and they thought they'd make the Postal Service an example, that they'd start eliminating this and cutting this and speeding up, and they really didn't take into consideration the human factor. And of course, the Postal Service is 650,000 humans touching every house every day, 6 days a week. And for some reason, the workers, the clerks, the carriers, they were never consulted on these decisions. But of course, they found some managers that had no blood in their veins, and they basically powered it downhill, and it got pretty ugly. Do you like your Postal Service today? Recognize anybody behind the counter? Is there anybody behind the counter? How long are the lines at your post office? When does your mail get delivered? Does it get delivered kind of erratically, like one postcard on Monday and then 8 pieces of mail on Tuesday? That has to do with processing delays. And then, of course, you order a magazine, and the magazine comes 2 at a time every 2 weeks. Now, what's that all about? We're all seeing the results of years of chipping away at the fringes of the U.S. Postal Service. The management looking at bar graphs and pie charts and not thinking how it hits the workers that actually process and deliver the mail. And now the talk is about letting the USPS go broke and chopping it up between private companies. Oh boy, let's have 5 or 6 people walking across my lawn at different parts of the day. Let's go to the gas station where I would mail a package. I believe many of us that stumbled into a postal career never thought of it as a career. It was easily learned skills in a quasi-government agency with a big carrot on the end of the stick. Good benefits, medical care, and a decent retirement package. Of course, they've chopped away at all of those, too. Just look the other way when the nepotism, the sexual harassment, and the good old boys club takes over. That good old boys club has been strongly mimicked by the increasing number of females that have risen to the top levels. Here in Des Moines, the senior staff has turned almost exclusively female. Don't get too uppity in your actions or burn any bridges when you're trying to do your job. I expect that if you talk to any current postal employees, you would get a similar answer. Go ahead, find one. Management does not care. There is no continuity with the directions coming from above. Management is as erratic as anything they have ever experienced. The old term disgruntled is widely considered the first of 3 words. Postal employee. Disgruntled postal employee. Where else did we ever hear the word disgruntled? One co-worker cleverly named the USPS as the paragon of mediocrity. I like that description. It makes sense. We were all just biding our time, waiting for our chance to get a bite out of that big carrot. Some of us got on the fast track. That usually meant we made it to the top 10% that could be counted on to do whatever the boss asked for. Upper management had to suspend their humanity and treat their employees in a mean-spirited and ruthless manner. A toxic work environment has been allowed to fester in the USPS, and that is one very good reason why it is a failing enterprise. I doubt if anyone could find 2 postal employees that really enjoyed their job or their workplace. The past 15 years has been tragic for all in the paragon of mediocrity. Getting back to the op-ed from President Putnam, which I read earlier, he talks about futurists talking about the nature of work, how it will change dramatically over the next 20 years. What are the professional pathways that lie ahead for our graduates? There's a poster that's been put out that talk about replaced by robots, jobs with high probabilities of being automated in the near future. Mail carrier, 68%. Anybody in the logging industry, 79%. Drill press operators, 94%. Jewelers, 68%. Farm laborer, 97%. And the nasty number, insurance underwriters, 99%. When speaking to leaders of large and small businesses and public and private institutions, the bleak outlook is avoid the risk of majoring in a job title. Odds are the role students are preparing for won't last in its current form long enough to support an extended career. Students should major in adaptation. More than any other skill, the need to adapt is essential to every career. One recent example is a group of school bus drivers adapting. When a bad snowstorm stranded 11 Ankeny school bus drivers in Minnesota. The buses held 311 students from Ankeny Centennial High School. They were invited to Hastings, Minnesota for the annual Swingin' on the River competition. The good news, the school's Spectrum Show Choir was named Grand Champion of the competition and received honors for Best Vocals and Best Choreography. Its Eternal Rush Show Choir was second runner-up. The real challenge was finding school bus drivers that were willing to test Mother Nature. The Des Moines area weather reporters were predicting a major winter storm for a number of days. Low temperatures, heavy snow, high winds, 40-mile-an-hour winds. One has to wonder how a business got so far off kilter. For our Ankeny office, 3 general managers and 4 safety managers in 1 year. An increase in employees with handicapped mirror hangers on their personal cars. Employees that cannot park in the newly opened south parking lot because it is too far to walk to the break room? ? Employees who have never been trained to talk on a two-way radio or given the entry-level skills on how to communicate with the main office? The first offer coming in was for 18 hours pay and 4 drivers to a room. No one signed up for that. Another local school, Waukee, pulled the plug and canceled their trip to Minnesota because of the threat of snow. On the last day before departing, the hours were increased to actual work hours, minus the hours that you were sleeping. With the call to other local bus companies, 11 brave drivers seeking a big payday were assembled. As predicted, a weekend winter storm dropped rain followed by heavy snow across parts of Minnesota and Iowa, shutting down Interstate 30 for more than 24 hours. That left the 311 students, 11 buses with drivers, and several staff members and parents who were planning to come home Sunday, stranded in the Gopher State. After leaving at 5 p.m. on Friday and finally returning at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, the idea of adaptation was displayed. Everyone was home safely, but the drivers were issued a gag warning to not speak to any assembled news media. That remains a big problem with the school bus business. The drivers are never consulted for their input. Case in point, the Ankeny School District, an anti-bullying effort was put forward in 2019. Have you heard anything about it? Have you seen anything in the paper? Have you received any information in the mail? You probably won't. And the bus drivers and monitors have not been asked for their input or participation. The bullying can be an everyday thing, like on my bus. Early in the year, I was gifted a route in an affluent area of our town. The population had exploded in recent years. The nickname of Fertile Valley would have been an appropriate title. 7 stops with 60-plus kids going to one elementary school. It took a few days to get them calmed down, but 3 boys, all second graders, were of concern. The F-bomb was dropped. Inappropriate conversations and teasing was apparent. A couple girls would stop on their way out of the bus and tattle on their seatmates. In my 8 years of driving school bus, I'd never had this problem. I did my duty. I wrote them up, a sheet of paper identifying their indiscretion, and then a number of the occurrence. In our system, you have to go to 10 before the write-up progresses from a minor to a major occurrence. My first efforts were met with a snide remark from an office helper. He told me he thought I was writing a book one day when I submitted 3 write-ups, and it appears that he never submitted that up the ladder. A common occurrence in our bus barn, causing most drivers to no longer care because nothing happens with the write-ups. Why waste the time? Okay, we've got more stories from Send My Mail to the End of the Trail, and I'll be reading about that in the next edition. And until then, let's see if we're going to war with anybody else. Currently, we're bombing Iran. More stories to complete. You can get in touch at any time. www.jamesstoredall.com. If you want me to talk about other issues. Until next time, bye-bye.